Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom, from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. I don't think I left anything out.
Comics.
I said comics, didn't I?
Did you?
I don't know.
Guess we'll have to listen to this.
This intro gets like ingrained in my brain, so
if that's the case, then you probably did say
it's hard for me to change it up because you had that one week where we cold opened and it screwed my whole process up.
We did the cold open, but at what cost?
I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Courtney. And Courtney, it's a big week. It's Batman week.
It's Oppenheimer casting day.
Yeah, it is. Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. It's like Christopher Nolan's listening to us.
Every day on the day, we get Oppenheimer casting. So we have that to lead our news segment, but we also, our main topic is going to be previewing one of the biggest movies in the last year plus, ever since probably 2019, DC Fandome, the first trailer for the Batman dropped. Wow. When we thought this movie was coming out in 2021.
Yeah.
And then they pulled the wool over our eyes and were like, surprise, 2022.
They gave us a riddle. They said, riddle me this. What if this movie came out in 2022?
Yeah. And so we're here. We made it. I say this every week. It's always like weird how we were like hyping a movie, and then we're like, this week the movie that we've been hyping is coming out.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a preview for Robert Pattinson's led The Batman, not just Batman, not The Dark Knight, not the Cape Crusader, The Batman. Mm-hmm. But first, the news. And Oppenheimer. I don't know how this keeps happening.
It's every week.
It's every week. It's every Tuesday.
I thought this movie was underway. I thought we started filming.
It's every Tuesday. I'm just scrolling Twitter, and they're like, guess what?
Yeah.
Another person's an Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
And we got double barreled action this week. So David Dastmalchian, who is just everywhere.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of things.
That's like on the list of actors you just can't hate. He's on that list.
Has Batman ties. Was in The Dark Knight as a crazy Arkham person.
Yep. And he's Polka Dot Man.
Yes.
Or was Polka Dot Man.
Oh, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Polka Dot Man. But yes, he and Jason Clarke have been cast in Oppenheimer.
There's not much we need to say about any of this.
No, we're just doing this to keep the bit going.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait for our Oppenheimer review. That's what I'm looking forward
to. Coming,
most.
Yeah. We have to get through like another 100 episodes of this podcast
before we even get close.
Because this is just casting.
Yeah,
imagine how we're going to be when it starts filming.
That trailer breakdown might need to be its own episode.
When Christopher Nolan gets the nuke.
Yeah, when Christopher Nolan. Are you responsible for the impending war?
Oh, man, yeah. We don't have anything to say. We just need to get the bit going, because what else can we say? Yeah. Every week we're like, is this cast getting too big? And then they're like, yeah.
Here's 5 more people. Don't question us. I'm Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's happening. Second on the news list, the Marvel Netflix shows have a home.
Yeah, they have a home.
It was a, week and a half mystery?
Yeah, we didn't know. It was about a week, yeah.
And Marvel solved it for us.
Yeah.
They're going to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I thought they were going to hit Hulu, but I think this is more...
As well as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We shouldn't discount that. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also going to, I believe, now the only holdout from Marvel properties that's not on Disney Plus is Cloak and Dagger.
And... Oh, the Runaways, the Runaways is. Cloak and Dagger. Can we get Cloak and Dagger on Disney Plus, please?
I think this goes back. I think this Cloak and Dagger thing goes back to literally episode 1 of the podcast.
Right.
Those two are great.
Yeah, they are. And they had a crossover with the Runaways.
Yeah.
Get them on Disney Plus so everybody can have a home.
Yeah. Marvel Netflix coming Disney Plus, as along with some parental control things that are, I guess, going to be added to the service. Obviously, because you don't want your 8-year-old stumbling into the Punisher.
Yeah, you don't want to see him, pushing Billy Russo's face against some glass. So, yeah, makes sense.
Good.
Yeah, no, good. I think this is more of a case of Spider-Man No Way Home being successful, so you want Daredevil in Kingpin being on Hawkeye, because I did think Hulu was going to be the route, so they didn't need to worry about the parental control, but obviously that's not the case. They're going to end up on Disney Plus, and I think that's to make sure they're with the other heroes. I think we're going to probably I think Daredevil season 4 is inevitable at this point.
Yep, that's what this feels like to me. It felt like it's so dumb of me to say this because Jessica Jones had one really great season, Luke Cage had one really great half a season.
Yep.
And Iron Fist was there.
And Punisher had a
good 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Great, pretty good first season, pretty decent second season. But this felt like we want to get Daredevil on Disney Plus, but we just might as well just take everything.
Right.
But also, I think it obviously opens the door for some of these other characters to return. Most notably, I think we're probably going to get John Bernthal back as the Punisher.
Yeah, and then my dark horse is trying to get Luke Cage back. I think Mike Coulter also might return to make sure he gets in whatever version of the Avengers that they're forming.
Yeah.
We'll see if Danny Rand comes back.
I think he may in some iteration. I don't think it'll be Finn Jones. Or maybe it will be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, you give him some of that Marvel Studios magic and maybe something can happen from it.
Yeah, he's not a bad actor. I just think
he's great in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I just don't think he was I don't think he was directed properly in Iron Fist. I think that was a big issue.
Because we've talked about that episode of Luke Cage that he's in, and it's night and day.
He's the best. It's like the perfect example of heroes for hire is those two in that episode.
Yeah, so, and it also paves the way for them to open the door for more kind of adult stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And more street level stuff, too.
And it makes me less worried, not worried, I shouldn't say I was ever worried about Blade, but, it sets a tone, it sets a precedent for Blade, sets a precedent for Deadpool, having all these Marvel Netflix shows coming over with
I mean, the immediate one that the speculation is about is Moon Knight, that's going to be the first one where it's going to be much darker than everything else was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's coming in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's coming in, I believe,
not even a month.
Yeah.
It's already March. We're in March.
It is March.
So, yeah, good. I'm pleasantly surprised that these things are going to be making their way to Netflix in the coming weeks. Some more casting news. Ariana DeBose has been cast as possibly Calypso in Kraven, or is that confirmed?
I think it's confirmed that she's Calypso.
What even is this?
This whole Sony verse that they're building?
Yeah, because we'll get to another thing right after this.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I really don't know. It's cool because we're getting this is my problem that I'm having. It's the whole Morbius thing that we're about to talk about in a second. What's the point of all of this if Spider-Man's not present? Because, it's not like you're doing, Green Goblin and Doc Ock. You're doing, Morbius and Kraven. Those aren't A-list... Kraven's probably closer to A-list, but those aren't A-list Spider-Man villains. That's like doing, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a Batman villain that just wouldn't be the same, par to get his or her own, whole show.
I mean, it's kind of unfair to do because Batman has a lot of... Spider-Man has a good rogues gallery.
No, he definitely does, but these aren't the rogues that I was looking for.
These are not the rogues I'm looking for.
Venom has the best, baggage to go. He has the best content to go off of.
Well, Venom's also the easiest because it's easy to do Venom because Venom is a hero in some instances.
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
But, Kraven is not a hero?
Yeah, he's just... Yeah, he has one of the best Spider-Man arcs in my opinion in Kraven's Last Hunt, but I would really love to see that, but with Spider-Man. I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah, but these movies are predicated on the idea that you're supposed to root for these people.
Right.
But when they go against Spider-Man, you're not going to want to root for them.
Right. Exactly.
So what's the point?
Right. Venom, like you said, Venom's the only one that I can genuinely root for. And I guarantee you if Venom and Spider-Man are in a movie together, they're going to punch each other for a little bit and then team up to fight something even badder.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not going to happen every time.
Right.
With, Morbius. And, okay, I guess we're just going to segue into the Morbius trailer now. Okay, so the thing that puzzled me about this is the Keaton dialogue when he's like, you have to become the person you're meant to be or whatever. I'm like, is that a hero speech?
Right.
What?
What's the perspective? Why is Michael Keaton in this?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting down to,
And he seems to be in it a bit.
Yeah. And I think that's more of a selling piece because Michael Keaton's really hot right now.
Michael Keaton's always hot, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that when we talk about our Batman preview, about previous Batman. But yeah, I don't know what place this serves in this whole Sony.
The tone is all over the place.
It really is. I don't know if this movie's from 2004. I don't know if it's an action adventure. I don't know if it's pseudo horror. I don't know what this is.
And I don't know if it's going to be self-aware enough in the way that Venom was.
Yeah.
Like, Venom was very self-aware of what it was trying to do.
Yeah, these reshoots are also giving me a lot of concern as well, because I think these are post-Spider-Man No Way Home reshoots, so I don't know what this movie's trying to be. I don't think this whole Sonyverse knows what it's trying to be. Venom's the only one that knows what it's trying to be.
Yeah, and I don't... It all depends on what they're trying to do with Spider-Man.
Right.
That's really ultimately
right, because,
what they're trying to do.
Yeah, if you use Batman as the comp, at least Batman has, like, other Bat people that can get their own properties. Like, Spider-Man doesn't have that exactly.
He's got one.
Yeah, he's
Miles
got
Morales,
one. Right.
that's it.
Right.
And they're not doing anything with Miles Morales outside of animated stuff.
Right. And, like, yeah, Batman, like, you can do Robin, you can do Batwoman, like, you have routes that you can go. Batgirl.
Already getting her own thing on
movie,
HBO Max.
But, like, this just feels like they shot themselves. It feels like somebody said, hey, what if Venom got something? And then, like, somebody else raised their hand. They were like, what if this person gets this? And then, like, they couldn't stop raising their hands.
Well, it's because they put all this stuff into motion before Spider-Man No Way Home, when I guess they didn't have an out. But now they have an out.
Right, and this was also when they thought that, you know what I always forget about? Remember when Spider-Man almost wasn't in the MCU for a little bit? This is probably what a lot of this stems from is, again, they shot themselves in the foot.
But now they have an out. They have Andrew Garfield back.
And they possibly have Tobey Maguire back.
Just put Andrew Garfield in these movies.
Right, he can just be... Yeah, he can
be the Sonyverse Spider-Man, right. It's fine.
This is simpler than I think you guys are giving it credit for.
And that's what I thought they were doing, but now, I don't know.
Yeah, because he even said, quote-unquote, he's...
I can't trust a single thing that guy says anymore.
I think it's like whatever it's like Bizarro, like whatever he says, you just gotta think the opposite of it.
I'm still confident that he's coming back.
For this movie specifically, I think he's gonna be in it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where this movie's... I don't know what it's trying to be.
But, like... Okay, so this is my issue with this. Are we going to see Morbius because we're genuinely interested in Morbius? No. Or are we going to see Morbius because we think Andrew Garfield's going to pop up in a post-credit scene?
Yeah, this is just because it's in the Sonyverse. That's the only reason we're going.
Yeah. That's the big difference between this series of movies and the Marvel movies. Like, the Marvel movies, I'm genuinely interested in, like, the story and the characters and the establishment of new characters. But, like, the Sonyverse thing, it just feels like we want to just surprise you with something. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, as much as I kind of joke about being like the Venom bandwagon guy, the only reason Let There Be Carnage was relevant is because everyone just wanted to see what was going to happen in the end. Mm-hmm. No one, I mean, and I guess people did want to see Carnage and see how that was going to happen, because Carnage is one of the most popular kind of villains in comic books ever. But most people were just like, I just want to see what's going to happen at the end. Because it was coming out before Spider-Man No Way Home. So we're like, ooh, what's going to happen? And then the thing happened and people got real excited for it. And then No Way Home just immediately erased it.
Right. Right.
So I don't know, man. We're going to go see Morbius because we have to, because we do this.
Yeah, we're going to have a gun held to our head and just walked into the theater and said, sit down and watch this.
Sit down and watch Morbius.
Yeah, it's going to be like that scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest where his eyes are just taped open.
I wish they would tape over my face like the Riddler does.
Yeah.
And Batman, the Batman trailer.
It's like, I don't even have any, like... I don't have any... The filmmaking doesn't look great. Like, Tyrese Gibson's, like, dialogue in the trailers are so great. And, like, there's nothing, like, clear-cut about this movie. Like, there's nothing that's exciting me. Like, Jared Leto's not exciting me at any point for this. Like, it just feels so generic and, like... I just remember when they tried to do that MonsterVerse for a little. That's what this feels where like that's where this movie should be. Not here. It should be with the Mummy.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, with Tom Cruise as the Mummy.
Oh man, Morbius. I mean, it's gonna make for a fun podcast at least.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, if you thought the Venom episode was fun.
Oh man, we haven't really sunk into a movie that has been genuinely like bad.
And we don't know. Maybe this movie will be.
It might surprise us.
Yeah, it might surprise us.
I'm not optimistic,
Me
though.
neither. Not as optimistic as the Batman. I'll tell you that much.
No, certainly not. So, yeah, let's transition to our Batman preview. Man, like we said at the top, this movie is 2 years in the making ever since, honestly, probably before that. Maybe. I don't know if people were as hyped for it, like, in its inception.
I mean, well,
certain groups of people were, but not like overarching, like, oh my god.
So let's go back a little bit. So it's 2017 and the Justice League happens.
The best.
Nope. We're not even going to joke about that. So yeah, the Joss Whedon Justice League happens.
This movie does have a very interesting inception.
Yeah, it does, because at that point, Ben Affleck was
doing it.
And not only was he doing it, he was going to direct this movie as well.
Good director.
And they already had the test footage of Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, which looked really good. I mean, if you go back to Batman Arkham Origins, the video game, they have one of the best cinematic fights in any video game I've ever seen. Like, I just watched that.
And that's what this was going to be, basically. It was going to be an Arkham-esque kind of Batman versus Deathstroke story.
Yeah,
and
I understand. It's funny. I'd been saying for a while that, like, that would make for a really good Ben Affleck Batman movie. Just lock him in Arkham and have him be the video game Batman for a little bit because of how brutal his Batman is. And I think that would have played really well. And, like, how far along his Batman was as well, too. But then, this Joss Whedon Justice League happened. Not received well, and it was a limbo state because Zack Snyder was, I mean, he was dealing with the death of his daughter. He wasn't really, I don't think he was too concerned about, anything Justice League related at the time.
Right.
And the studio, because studios are studios, they want to make money. So I believe how it goes is Ben Affleck was going to direct it. He was going to write and direct it. He stepped down. Matt Reeves jumped on to direct that Batman movie, and then something happened. I mean, I think it was just the fallout from the Justice League theatrical release that Ben Affleck was like, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." And then Matt Reeves said, "Well, hey, can I get the helm and just make my own Batman movie, maybe separate from everything else? Maybe that might help."
Ben Affleck had been quoted as saying like he couldn't crack it.
Yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, it's tough.
It happens.
Yeah, and it's Ben Affleck, as amazing of a filmmaker as he is, because he's an award-winning filmmaker for Argo.
Yeah. People forget that, but yeah.
It's the juggle, and I mean, just the mental state that reportedly he went through just to get back. Yeah, to get back even for just Batman vs. Superman itself, it's taxing on somebody mentally and physically. And I hope he's doing better now, but
I think he is. He's back with J-Lo.
Yeah, that helps.
that helps a lot.
Yeah, it helps a lot. But yeah, so Matt Reeves probably went to Warner Brothers and said, "Hey, can I just make a Batman movie? Is that a bad thing?" And they were probably like, "Hey, maybe you just should." Because I believe at this time, Shazam should have been out by now and Aquaman should have been out by now. So all your solo outings are going well. And I think they were probably contemplating, should this be continuity? Should this not be continuity? I think even at the time, they were even contemplating if this should just be a younger version of Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and just have him be like an origin story of that Bruce Wayne just to keep it rolling, just in case he wanted to ever come back, or maybe just have this all in the past until this happens here. But I'm glad of what we got, because this turned into a completely new story, new inception, and then Robert Pattinson got cast, and
everyone went, "Whoa, boy!"
I will never forget the day that he got cast, because it was the nighttime. I'll never forget. I was sitting in my living room. I was scrolling through Twitter, and I have an infamous tweet that I tweeted, and it was the picture of of Heath Ledger's Joker hanging upside down when he says, "And here we go," because I knew he was immediately about to get hate, and as soon as it happened, just absolute onslaught of hate for like days on end. And it was just like they got the guy from Twilight over and over again. I'm like, has nobody seen any other movie that he's done? And that was the consensus. Nobody, I think that was the issues. Nobody'd seen any other movie. Because at the time
he was kind of flying under the radar a bit.
Yeah, I said it before, he had one of the best, like, indie runs of anybody ever in history. He bounced from, Lost City of Z, High Life, Good Time. Like, he was at the top of, like, this really film-esque world. Like, like, the really, like, indie flicks that you can go for. I mean, Good Time is one of my favorite movies of all time that the Safdie brothers did.
And that's by design, also, on Pattinson's part. Like, you get that Twilight bag and you want to just step away.
Yeah, go art house for a little bit.
Look at Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. Daniel Radcliffe is only just now getting back into like mainstream films. And even the stuff he's doing now is very wacky.
Yeah, it is.
But Daniel Radcliffe's a good actor. And it took him a while to get off that Harry Potter train, and he kind of went under the radar for a bit.
Right.
Pattinson did the same thing. He took a bit of a different path than Daniel Radcliffe did, but at the end of the day, he does all this indie stuff, and then he comes back with Tenet, basically.
Yeah, and I always say that he had his audition for Tenet when he was walking through the Freeport in that movie, and he's just walking. I'm like, he's just observing things. I'm like, that's Bruce Wayne. Like, I always say there's always, it's always like the acting thing, but I always say it's a physical feature that people get the roles that they have. And I told you what the physical feature is. It's his jawline. That's why he got the role of Batman. But no, I think it's his acting presence. It's ever flowing. Like that, he's truly like an actor. Like I never feel Robert Pattinson in any role that he does. I always feel whatever character that he's playing, because his character as Lighthouse is infinitely different than is in Good Time than it is in Tenet. Like every role he does is,
it's almost like he's acting.
Yeah, it's almost like he's exactly, and that's what great actors do. They act.
Yeah. So that was the spearhead, and then just got a cascade of castings after that.
Yeah, it was funny the way Matt Reeves did it. He just took like pictures of people from different projects that they did and just posted them on Twitter, and then like the internet would explode after each one. So like I think what did he do? I think he posted the picture of, because what happened, I think he posted the picture of Robert Pattinson from Good Time, and then it was like, oh no, why would you get the guy from Twilight to do it? And then it was Zoe Kravitz, then it was Paul Dano, and it was just like one after another, and it was just really, and I was like, this cast is really getting put together really nicely.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah, but it's like, it wasn't like these like, well, these are A-list actors, but it wasn't like they were all actors that like have worked with really good filmmakers before. That's what I was putting together. Like most actors work with really good filmmakers, but
honestly,
like,
I think the one that raised my eyebrow the most was Colin Farrell when he was cast as the Penguin. I was like,
yeah, this is gonna get real interesting.
I was like, how's this gonna look?
Yeah.
But then...
Not like him. That's how it
looks. Not at all.
Yeah. Right.
When you see Colin Farrell in interviews versus how he looked as the Penguin, you're like, is that the same guy?
It is the same guy.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then Jeffrey Wright is cast as Commissioner Gordon.
Immediately on board from that one. That one was an easy one.
Andy Serkis cast as Alfred. You're like, yep, perfect.
Matt Reeves had to get his boy in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people wanted Pierce Brosnan in the role.
Including me, but then I saw him as Dr. Fate, and I was like, recently, I was like, oh yeah, that's
in hindsight, it worked out.
Yeah.
And then we started getting bits and pieces about what the story was going to be and what the inspirations were going to be. And this was Matt Reeves, said from the jump, this is going to be a detective-based kind of crime noir film. And the first trailer that was unleashed at DC Fandome gives that tone right away.
So the question that you're getting asked after, like, I guess people settled down, maybe, looked up Robert Pattinson beyond him just being in Twilight, and then you kind of get, a little bit of a calm. And then the question is, well, how there's a couple things. He's skinny. That was the big thing that people had issue. Like, it's just the weirdest things. Like, again, it's almost like you're acting and your body doesn't have to look the same. I mean, the two predecessors ago might be the perfect example of your body doesn't need
Christian
to look the
Bale
same.
Is a maniac.
Yeah, because he just will drop or gain 80 pounds on roll on command.
Yeah, Christian Bale, chill out.
Yeah, man, you're going to kill yourself. We love you, man.
Yeah, you're going to be great in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Can I, just for 1 second, so Jason and Aaron's Thor run is really amazing. It's the definitive Thor run, and Gore is just such this complex villain because it's like, it adds this layer of like, it's not as simple as like Thor's just a being out there. Like Thor's actually like a god, so like people can pray to him. So like Gore's just this guy that's like resentful of Thor because like he called to him and he didn't answer, and he's like, now I'm gonna kill every god in the universe because they don't answer prayers to people like me. It's really well done. So Christian Bale, I'm really glad that you're playing Gore. Beside the point, he was Batman. This is a Batman episode, not a Thor preview. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And then that DC Fandome trailer. But I want to talk about something before we get to the trailer. I want to talk about Matt Reeves himself, because have you ever listened to Matt Reeves talk? Complete control over whatever narrative that he's doing. I think the Planet of the Apes movies are perfect because the first one he didn't direct, and it's like, all right, cool. James Franco's in this. It's a good time.
It was cool.
Cool mocap work done, It felt more Hollywood. And then Dawn of the Planet of the Apes came out, and I was like, this feels very,
Do you have me invested in a story about apes riding horses?
Yeah, like, and it's complete control of character and world. Like, it's everything feels so, like, thought out and so intentional in what he's doing. It's like he's one of the best working, in my opinion, because of like how much creative control he gets over everything. Like, he probably walks into those studios and like the studio execs are like, you need to do this, this, and this. He's like, no thanks. That's not how this is gonna go. Like, are you guys behind the camera? No, so I'm gonna do what I think is best for the
intentional
film. Yeah, and
would be the word I would use. Everything he did with intention. He's directing and writing they go hand in hand. Everyone has their own kind of way of doing it, right? Matt Reeves is the control type, where he everything is storyboarded, everything is envisioned, and he puts what's on the paper to the camera to the screen, and works well for a lot of people.
Yeah, so...
And then you have kind of the Jon Favreau mold, the Quentin Tarantino mold, which is more kind of freewheeling and kind of feeling it in the moment. And that's also very successful, you know, but for the type of story he was trying to tell, he's the perfect director for what this is attempting to be. It's
gritty. I mean, if you look at Cloverfield, like that found footage type of filmmaking, and then getting back to the Planet of the Apes movies, it's like, it feels very, like, it feels dirty. Like, it feels dirty, gritty, like, but if we want to look at life for what it really is, that's more akin to what it really is. It's not this glossed over, you know, CGI worlds that we live in. No, it's pretty dark and grim of what actually happens, and he really highlights that. But what he highlights is, like, what emotion can shine through that, too. And I think he gets that with the first trailer. So that DC Fandome, he was just talking about Gotham for a little bit. And, like, you can feel like, oh, I trust this guy's with the keys to the castle of, like, the most, like, him and Spider-Man being, like, you know, the two pillars of, like, comic heroes along with Superman. And then that trailer dropped for DC Fandome, and you're like, I like this vibe. A little Kurt Cobain rolling in. And just when Jeffrey Wright was walking through the frame, and then, like, because I thought it was going to be like a 30-second teaser. I didn't think it was going to be a full 2.5 minute trailer. And then Robert Pattinson walks through the frame in the bat suit, and I was like, oh yeah, they're onto something. They are really onto something. He has this, like, he has this presence about him. That's my favorite thing about him, that I can't even, I'm like, it's just something different about his than any other Batman. Like, there's just, he feels like himself as Batman. Like, that, like, this Bruce Wayne needs to be Batman to, you know, get any emotion out of himself or, like, do what he needs to do. And yeah, that trailer dropped, and, like, I mean, the moment in the trailer, because that was also the question, like, can he fight? Like, he just looks like, oh yeah, he can fight. He can move and he can fight. So it's like, now he starts checking all the boxes, but it's the filmmaking in there too, and, like, the narrative they were trying to pull from it. Like, it feels so real. Like, it just feels really, really well done, and it feels like it had a lot of tender love and care for, like, what Batman is as a character, and, like, the evolution of what he's gone through from, like, the 30s till now. Like, you feel everything in there.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, we talk about the tone, and it established itself. That trailer established itself as definitively not Nolan and definitively not Affleck either. It immediately paved its own lane.
It's not Keaton. It's not. Yeah, it doesn't have any of that. Like,
it has. I think Matt Reeves has even talked about how much inspiration he draws from Batman the animated series, and that's what kind of vibe it had, even down to the music.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just running through a whole bunch of Batman comics that I had, because so this story is a year 2 story, and I really thought that was smart, because we've already seen the origin 1,000 times. We've seen the Waynes killed. We've seen him train wherever he trains. Like, we don't need that. Same thing that we got with this new iteration of Spider-Man with Tom Holland. I don't need to see him being bit by this. Like, we've seen that twice. We don't need that. What I need is, like, how is he doing after the inception? Like, what's going on? Like, he's still fresh, but, like, he's pretty in control of what he does, but he's still got a lot to learn. All of his gadgets feel really, like, they feel so, like, Mark 1, but they feel Mark 2. That's a better way to explain it.
Got the grappling hook.
Yeah.
Got the car.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, he feels so Batman. Like, even Christian Bale's Batman felt like, because I was just watching Batman Begins today as well, he feels very, like, you know, you're seeing everything, and it's like Lucius Fox is building everything for him, basically. But he's just a smart man that knows how to use it. Like, this one feels like, oh, I might have built some of this stuff that I was using. Like, it feels like his own. Like, there's just, like, this level of, like, ownership that he has over the role of Batman specifically. So, yeah, no, once all these trailers were dropping, man, it got really real really quick.
And then some weird things started happening. So... With Batman in particular. So while all this is going on, there's Ben Affleck's back. We're doing the Snyder Cut, which, if you go back and look at our previous episodes, we looked at the Snyder Cut, and Ben Affleck came back and did some additional work for it, and you're like, what's going on here?
And then the Flash movie said, what if we were secretly a Batman No Way Home movie? So yeah, Ben Affleck's also coming back for that, which will be his last role. He said that's the last time he's playing Batman.
All right, Andrew Garfield, Affleck.
We'll see. But also, Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman.
Yes.
Interesting.
He's also going to be back in Batgirl also.
Yeah, because he's apparently... I think that Flash movie is going to mess with the continuity a little bit to make everything canon. Or at least the Keaton-verse canon.
Yeah. So... we can go back and talk about Keaton's Batman for a second. You know, just kind of the lead up to what we're getting with Pattinson.
Because if you want to talk about the how Batman evolved, because year one when Frank Miller took over Batman, because before that Batman was very silly, to say the least.
How dare you call Adam West silly?
Not Adam West. It was campy, but it was understandable, and it was the 60s. It was the time that it called for, needed it to be what it was. And there's a level of respect that comes from that. It's like looking at older athletes. There's a level of respect that they garner from what they did and how they, made changed the game a little bit.
Yeah.
He's one of the founding fathers of superhero content, period.
Him and Christopher Reeve, man.
Right. So yeah, you look at that Batman and but still, it's very campy. It's very Saturday, after school special Batman, which is cool. But then you hit Batman Year One for comics, and it's like comics and then live action, and then you get this Keaton version of Batman, and this world feels very much darker than anything else you've seen.
And this is
Batman.
1989, at a point where I'm not born yet. I got 2 years to go before I'm born, so I wasn't really around for this.
I'm definitely born.
Yeah, right. But it's back in, I know it seems unfathomable now to think, but back in 1989, early 90s, people were like, can this work? Mm-hmm. Can we do superhero movies?
But dark? Yeah. Can we do these dark, gritty stories? And boy, it worked. Mm-hmm. Boy, did it work. I mean, Michael Keaton.
It still holds up.
Yeah, it does in my opinion too. I think it's a really solid story of this man that's kind of crazy if you think about it. He's a little bit unhinged. You
want to get nuts?
Yeah, but he understands that, and he understands the task that it takes to be the Batman in the city that's really falling apart to anarchy at this point. It's he's the perfect example of order and chaos. I know that's the whole point of The Dark Knight, but I mean Batman 89 does a really good job of that as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, it's funny because there's a lot of parallels going back, reading up on things and hearing people talk about it. The Keaton casting was very controversial. Because he was more of a rom-com, comedy actor at the time.
Did he do Beetlejuice before or after?
After, I think. But he had done Mr. Mom before, before Batman. And people were like, really? This guy? And then what added kind of gravitas to it was Jack Nicholson being cast as the Joker. And
famously being the number one billing casting in that movie as well, over your lead.
Yeah, and he's great, obviously, in Batman 89. And then Keaton continues his story in the sequel, and then things get weird for a bit because you have this other movie with Val Kilmer, who is sort of the Keaton Batman, but not really.
Right. Yeah. Right. So it's an interesting place where it picks up. I think the whole point was to get a Robin as well because of how popular Robin had become. I think at that point Nightwing was in his inception was in the 80s, so that's with the Teen Titans, so that's a little different. But I think they wanted a Robin who famously was not supposed to be Chris O'Donnell, which was supposed to be Marlon Wayans, which is funny.
Yeesh. Yeah, so we get Val Kilmer, and then we go backwards a bit. We get away from the darker stuff. We get to the Schumacher Batman movie with Clooney.
Yeah, but it's not silly in the way that's understandably silly. It's 60s and 70s comics, it's just silly because it's not well made.
The Bat credit card?
Right, the Bat credit card. It's it just misunderstands the balance of what Batman needs to be.
Suit looks good, though.
Suit, yeah.
The Clooney suit is pretty clean looking.
Yeah, with the nipples.
Yeah, the nipples. Chris O'Donnell, Schwarzenegger, famously.
Yeah.
As Mr. Freeze.
Uma Thurman as
Poison Ivy.
Yeah, Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
So, confession time, I had an old iPod when I was a kid, and for whatever reason, that was one of the movies that was on that iPod. I don't know why. So I've watched Batman and Robin, and this isn't an exaggeration, possibly 100 times I've seen that movie. So that movie's ingrained into my brain.
You get the teen idol of the 90s, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl.
Alfred's
hologram?
Alfred's granddaughter?
Something like that.
Uncle. It's her uncle. Great uncle or uncle, who knows?
Something like that, yeah. Right. And then Batman and Robin basically kills Batman for about 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's what that movie came out in 95, I believe.
I shouldn't say it kills Batman in live action.
Right.
Obviously Batman the animated series
right.
is propelling the character through the 90s.
Yeah. And 90s was a really interesting place for comics as well, specifically Marvel Comics. But DC Comics usually shines through. But it was like that grunge era of comics.
Where everything got real extreme.
Yeah, everything like had the extreme with the X. Like, that's how everything was.
I mean, it's the inception of Venom.
Right, yeah, true. Todd McFarlane had a field day in the 90s. But, yeah, so you're hitting this 2000s era, and there's this filmmaker named Christopher Nolan that's, up and coming. I mean, he made a movie before Memento, and then his big release was Memento, and then he does, I believe, Insomnia after that. So somebody that's really, real world stories, like darker, grittier stories that really highlight, like, the ins and outs of like character studies almost, for both of those movies, specifically Memento. So yeah, Warner Brothers taps him to direct the Batman Begins with Christian Bale.
And we're swinging the pendulum back to darker tone.
Yeah, and then but what this one gets added to it is realism specifically.
Yep.
And it's a route that also, we don't know how it can go because if it's 2005, this is only 2 years after Daredevil. I know the Batman movies feel so far in the future, but it's only 2 years after Daredevil. I think it's the same year that the first Fantastic Four movie came out. Like, there's
maybe
a lot
year
of
after, yeah.
like this movie is like really what those those campy early 2000s.
Where Batman Begins were a year before X3.
Right, yeah, like all these movies like are either during it or after it. So this movie got a chance to shine a little bit as, this realism take on, one of the most classic superheroes of all time.
And as we've talked about on our podcast, when we look back at Batman Begins, it's a great Batman movie. Mm-hmm. He feels important, from start to finish. You get a good origin story. It's really solid.
Yeah.
And then the magnum opus a couple years later, The Dark Knight.
Right. And it's something that I'm really looking for the Batman to do is be a really good movie over just being a superhero movie, because I've said before, I don't love the moniker of like the superhero genre. It's not as simple as that.
Especially when you look at The Dark Knight.
Right, yeah. You really feel like it's just a film that includes Batman, whatever narrative that takes place. And I mean, oh my God, Heath Ledger's he's
iconic,
yeah,
legendary. Any accolade. I mean, he won an Oscar for Christ's sake.
Right.
Obviously, tragically, lost his life. Also, that's still such a shame, because that guy really was developing into a special actor.
Right, yeah, like that's the performance that can really propel yourself into like the A-list actors in Hollywood.
And on top of him winning the Oscar posthumously, it got Batman, The Dark Knight notably not nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, but that was the one where I kind of looked at these superhero movies.
Knocking on the door.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, can we actually take these movies seriously? And yes, you can.
Yeah. And then, Nolan caps off his trilogy with The Dark Knight Rises.
I will go on the battle hill, apparently, that this movie, people don't like this movie, and I don't see it. This movie is not as different from these other movies as people try to separate it a little bit from these other movies. And I think what hurts it is that it has to follow The Dark Knight. So it's just the class of case of people just, if something's not as great as the thing that came before it, it doesn't matter what it is. People are going to like it.
And in a trilogy where the third acts aren't the strongest, even The Dark Knight's third act isn't the strongest.
Right.
The Dark Knight Rises probably has the weakest third act, especially when it comes to, obviously, the contrivances surrounding...
You have so much heavy lifting with Bane in the first two acts, specifically the second act, because you have to turn him into the adversary of the Batman, and, like, it's not only what he does, it's, like, it's so impressive what he does, because he doesn't destroy, like, not only does he destroy Bruce Wayne, he destroys Batman. Like, it's truly Batman.
One of my favorite scenes in any comic book movie ever is the fight in the sewer.
Yeah, like,
there's no music.
No music.
It's just...
the brutality of
pummeling.
Yeah, it's just like the true force of like, you haven't faced anything like this before. It's like, it's because
it's the cuts to Bane's henchmen looking visibly uncomfortable.
Like, what it does is like, there's three things that goes with Batman. It's like, it's the physical, it's the mental, and it's like the spirit of what like Batman is to like Gotham. So like, not only does he break Bruce Wayne, he breaks Batman, and he breaks the spirit of what Batman meant to Gotham, all the work he had been doing over the last X amount of years. He breaks all three of those within the first two acts. So like, to have the third act divulge in just to like a punching battle, it just kind of, it hurts it a little bit.
Yeah. So, and then we put Batman down again for When does Batman vs Superman come out?
4 years. It's 4 years. But technically only a year and a half about, because Ben Affleck had like set images in like 2014, I believe, as Batman. Like, they knew that for a while that he was going to be Batman.
Right.
And another casting, when it happened, people were against it again. They were not feeling it. And
there's a trend with these Batman castings.
Yeah, that people are against
you look to
it.
Keaton.
Who do they want to play Batman is the better question.
Kevin Conroy
or
is
John,
the answer.
John Hamm is a popular one. Want to play Batman.
And we saw Kevin Conroy in live action as Batman.
We did. Interesting Batman.
He was decent.
Yeah.
The voice, man.
Yeah, it's the voice.
The voice is so good.
It's amazing, yeah.
But yeah, so we get Ben Affleck. We've talked ad nauseum about Batman vs Superman and Justice League. And
how he's
Snyder
the best
Cut.
part of Batman vs Superman as well.
Yes. So, and then that gets us here to the Batman, to Robert Pattinson, to a somewhat what seems to be a mixture of the Nolan films and the Affleck films. You have the Riddler. I think that out of everything that is leading up to this movie, that's the one, pun intended, that people have the most question marks about, because it's such a departure from what people know the Riddler as.
Right, and I mean, this goes for, you don't have to read comics. Like,
right.
Yeah, you don't have to, but like, there's so many iterations of this character. I mean, if I'm looking at this story specifically, what I really got from this, because I think they released the 3 comics that it's based off of, its Batman ego, and you really can tell that from the characters of like, you can tell that he's having this battle, like, with not wanting to be, like, it's this split from Bruce Wayne and Batman, because, like, anytime we see him in live action, it's also, like, the partnership of, like, it's, like, it's more normal. Like, this Batman feels like it's not normal. Like, it's, like, he's truly, like, it's a year 2. It's, like,
he only wants to be Batman.
Yeah, like, Christian Bale's Batman, like I said, because I was just watching Batman Begins, he's immediately inserted into the corporate world. Like, he immediately gets put back into it.
And he immediately kind of takes to it also.
Right. Right.
But he has, like, I think, a one-off conversation in Batman Begins where he's like, I don't know how to be Bruce Wayne anymore. But then he immediately goes out and, like, buys a hotel.
Right, yeah. But, like...
Or, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, just from the trailers of this, like, you feel like he does not care about being Bruce Wayne.
I don't care what happens to me.
Like, I don't care about all this. Like, I'm just being, like... And that feels more real of, like, why would... If it's your, like, second year of doing this, like, why would you need to be Bruce Wayne? Like, you can be, like, a recluse, like, you know, kind of separated from everything. Like, people aren't probably going to be like, oh, why isn't Bruce Wayne? No, they're going to worry about the guy that's, like, terrorizing the skies.
Yeah, and even Batman himself in this is not, you know, he doesn't call himself a symbol. He doesn't call himself, what he calls himself is a warning.
Yeah. Like,
essentially.
Yeah, like,
one of the trailers.
I need to be a presence here. Like, I need to be a symbol of fear here. Like, that's what I really need to be. So yeah, no, it's really well done. So yeah, we get here. What else do we got about this Batman? I don't know, man.
What are we expecting?
Yeah,
here?
I mean, a good movie, just a really well-made movie.
I think so too.
That's all I can ask for. I mean, we got Greg Fraser behind the camera being your cinematographer. Michael Giacchino's score is just what we've heard from the trailer, from that screen test. That's when I kind of knew, because again, I saw his jawline and I was like, yeah, he's got the head for it, but. He does a lot of, it's his eyes, like, because, it's the white eyes thing, like, but he can do it. Like, I love how he has the smear on his face from the paint, like, yeah, because, like, that feels real of, like, oh, it's the famous Keaton rips off the mask in Batman 93, and, like, the eye black is gone. I'm like, what happened? Like, it's not real. Like, this is real. Like, you really feel, like, the presence of Bruce Wayne, like, fully succumbing to, like, the aura of Batman in this. That's what I really can tell from this.
That's the best way to explain it, is there's an aura to this Batman in a way that is shown to us.
Yeah.
Rather, going back to the Affleck Batman, it's so weird to me that, and this goes back to the storytelling and the weirdness of it, that he could be Batman for 20 years and still somehow be a mystery to people.
Right.
And be like this unknown. Like, that's not possible. Whereas in this, you do get that feeling that, well, you could believe that people don't know if he's real.
Right.
Or if they don't think he is who they say he is. Or, I mean, you even get that from the Fandome trailer, the famous moment from the trailer, who are you supposed to be? And then the guy just gets pummeled into oblivion. And you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about this, is it just serves as this opportunity to do so many things with the character that we haven't seen in live action. Yeah,
like I said, from all these trailers, this feels like Batman animated series. Like, it feels like a younger version of that. Like, it feels like my point I wanted to go back before, this feels like Batman 0 Year. Really solid comic about Bruce Wayne's, like, it's literally like the first couple days. Like, it's literally him going into the cave, like being scared by the bats. Like, that's what 0 Year, like, he has a completely shaved head. But it's funny, I was reading 0 Year, and this is right when he got casted. I picked up that comic, and like, I looked at that that Bruce Wayne, I'm like, that kind of looks like Robert Pattinson in a weird roundabout way. Like, it's his jaw, like, it looks like Robert Pattinson just with a buzz cut. But it's like, it's this, in 0 Year, it's the same thing. It's this Batman that does not care about Bruce Wayne at the moment. Like, he has a lot of arguments with Alfred in that comic as well. Like, they don't see eye to eye on what's going on. Like, and he's getting inserted back into the city in, like, not like just a normal way. He's getting inserted back into the city in, like, you know, roundabout ways of, like, he feels alienated from everything. It's not like this playboy that comes back. He's like, he's not accustomed to everything because he's been training to be, like, he's been training to be a vigilante for the past X amount of years of his life. He's not training to be like a playboy right now. Like, he doesn't care about that stuff.
No, not at all. And I don't get the sense from this movie that we're going to see any of that either.
Yeah, and that's been one of the biggest complaints. It's like the emo Batman, and I'm like, why would he care about his physical appearance? Like, he probably only cares about making sure he's out at night. Like, that's probably what he's worried about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this movie is going to be more than anything a character study of the psyche of Batman.
Yeah.
And
that's why Batman Ego was one of the big pieces of what was pulled from this.
Yep. And I think the Riddler is an excellent adversary to explore that psychology.
Right.
You know, the only other one that really attacks Batman psychologically is the Joker.
Right.
And we don't need to touch that. Right.
Right, because it's like I said earlier, like, the League of Shadows attacked his fear, but is more physically, that's what it really attacked. Like, Joker attacked, like, the mental aspect, and, like, it's funny, it's like Bane kind of attacked the philosophical nature of it, and it's funny because, you know, the Joker also did that, but, like, Bane was specific. Like, that was the whole thing. Like, I'm going to destroy this whole thing that you were building. You know, I actually want to flip those. I think Joker was really messing with the philosophical nature, and Bane was messing with the actual, like, mental aspect of what Bruce Wayne really means, and, like, what Batman really means to the city.
Yeah, the Joker in the Dark Knight trilogy was more attacking the philosophy of Batman, and, like, what he stood for. When he was like, you know, you obviously get to the famous scene in the interrogation room, and he's like, don't talk like one of them.
Yeah, you're not one of them. Yeah,
you know, you're a freak like me, and that was the whole ethos of the Joker, was trying to get.
And that's Joker in general. It's like, that's like, we're not so different. We really aren't.
Joker and Batman really perfected the art of we're the same, you and I. That whole, you know, that whole kind of pathos of hero and villain is, you know, we're not so different from each other. You know, I'm just a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes. Whereas you have this invisible code that makes you think you're, you know, better than me, but you're not. And you're not. But you're also not like a cop. You're not a hero. And then where Bane attacked the symbol, basically, where the Joker attacked the man behind the mask, whereas Bane attacked the symbol is the difference. And I think what Riddler is going to do is more of the Joker thing, where he's going to attack the mind, which, I mean, that's the Riddler's whole thing. Right.
Right. But Paul Dano is a stroke of genius of casting. I mean, it's funny because everybody goes to the Prisoners type of, you know, way to go about it, but There Will Be Blood, I always say it's one of the greatest films that's ever been made, in my opinion. And it's my biggest, you know, halo over this movie is the adversary nature. It's like, it's not the simple, like, good guy, bad guy, because the movie kind of flips and you understand that's not a real thing that ever happens. There's no good guy or bad thing. Obviously, things are going to be a little bit more black and white in, you know, your comic book movies, but it just feels like he feels very Eli Sunday in the way he's been portraying the Riddler, because it's like there's somebody behind that mask that's like has this broken nature, but that's trying to put on this like facade. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the facade is what they're presenting to, or maybe the facade's actually in them, and like what they're actually, when they get unhinged, is like the real version of themselves as well.
Yeah, and then the other thing we should talk about also is John Turturro being cast as Carmine Falcone. Interesting.
Yeah, real interesting. Because obviously, I guess everybody's seen John Turturro in the Transformers movie and see how
seen him in a lot of things.
Right? Yeah, I guess enigmatic is the perfect word to use for the Transformers. But yeah, no, he's very off the rails when you need him to be. He's one of those actors where you kind of just let him run and kind of just see what sticks as well. So I actually think I really like that casting. Down to the set photos that I've seen too, and then reading Long Halloween, I think the look is really well done.
I like the look a lot.
Yeah.
It's very kind of suave, kind of, low key, not like extravagant. It's a great antithesis to how the Penguin's presented.
Right.
Where it was very, I've made the jokes endlessly since the trailers of these movies have come out about the Penguin and
Take
how
it easy, sweetheart.
Yeah. Hey yo.
Walking here.
He gives off very it's funny to say comic booky, but it's like stereotype mob boss Italian guy, which is typically not how the Penguin is portrayed. He's portrayed as like Cockney.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So they're going a slightly different direction here, but I think a lot of this movie is slightly different directions from what, you would think you're going to see, from the Riddler to the Penguin to even Batman himself is a slight kind of detract from anything we've seen before, which is good, which is what we need. We just spent, 20 minutes on all the previous iterations of Batman. This is a character we've seen a bunch, so you need this movie to kind of pave its own lane.
Right.
It shouldn't try to be Nolan's movies. It shouldn't try to be the Keaton movies. It shouldn't try to be the Clooney movies. It shouldn't try to be the Affleck movies. Yeah. It should be its own thing.
And I think what is going to help that is who's behind the camera and I said it when we were talking about Dune. I said it when we were talking about No Time to Die a little bit. I think people, and it's not anybody's fault. It's like the general audience thing. People walk into movies, like there's the crowd of people that are just like, what's in the theater? Let's go see it. And that's 1,000,000% how it should be consumed. But I think people don't give, like, people that are like invested don't give enough credit to like what's happening behind the camera or like what's happening, with the score. Like people don't give that enough credit to like what's actually happened, and they pin a lot on the actor itself. I think that's what hurts Ben Affleck's Batman a little bit, is that very thing, is like you pin it on about what's going on behind, like in front versus like what's going on behind everything as well. So I think that might be the best thing about this Batman, is like the vision that Matt Reeves has for it.
Yeah. So in my opinion, and not necessarily my opinion but this is going to be viewed in two ways, right? And kind of these two tiers, these two bars that this movie not necessarily has to clear, but that is probably going to be, people are going to keep in mind. One bar, which honestly I think it's gonna clear quite easily, is this gonna be the best Batman movie? I think so. I think it will be, honestly. And
you don't do that.
No.
You don't do that.
But it's, oh man, just that first trailer, the tone, that moment that you talk about when you have Jeffrey Wright's voiceover of him reading the riddle, and then the music behind it, and he goes, "Does this mean anything to you?" And that's when you first see Pattinson's Batman, and you're like, "Yup."
Yeah. For me, it was that second trailer that was the one where I was like, because the first trailer was like, we just needed to get sold on Robert Pattinson, and I think that was intentional. They threw that little fight in at the end of the trailer for the fandom one. But the second one was like, that was the trailer. That was the one where like the movie itself was being sold to everybody as well.
Yeah. So I think it does clear that bar of being the best Batman movie. It just seems like the movie that's most about Batman, which is what it should be. It's not going to, as great as I'm sure Paul Dano will probably be, this doesn't feel like a movie where the villain's going to overshadow the hero. I think this is going to be totally told from Batman's point of view and how Batman interacts with the characters in the story. And then that second bar, which isn't necessarily even a bar to clear, is this movie's going to draw comparisons to The Dark Knight. It's inevitable. And that's going to be the big test, is does it stack up to The Dark Knight? And we'll see. I can't say definitively one way or the other. That movie is special for a lot of people, not just for nostalgia. I mean, nostalgia is a big part of it, but also it's a movie that holds up to this day.
It probably will forever.
Yeah, it's one of the most iconic films of the 21st century.
Right.
And contains one of the greatest performances in any film, regardless of genre. It's, that's a tough bar to clear, but if any movie has a shot at it, if any Batman movie has a shot at it, it could be this one. Honestly, like this movie, you go back to Matt Reeves, and what stands out to me is what you can feel is a certain control. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like this movie's driving him. It feels like he's driving this movie.
The character, the narrative, everything behind the scenes, everything in front of the screen, like it just feels like
it doesn't feel too big for him.
It just feels like his vision, and like we've seen him get like really large world, and I want to talk about that for the second, is the world building that might come from this. Like,
he's already talked about doing sequels,
right? Like, this feels like something like I mean, the intention is to definitely spawn sequels, just because we're getting this early version of Catwoman, we're getting this early version of Bruce, we're getting this early version of the Penguin. Like, you could feel the rest of the rogues kind of, about to run.
There's that mysterious role from Barry Keoghan.
Right. But what you can also feel is like this world can have a Robin in it. This world can like I think he even talked about in interviews, like, in this world specifically, as of right now, there's no like Superman or anything, none of those elements. But like, you can feel like even if there was to get as crazy as like a Killer Croc in here, like I could believe it. You know what I mean? Like that's what I talk about
when I talk about it's being the perfect mixture of the Affleck Batman and the Nolan Batman.
Yeah, this feels like Batman comics, man. Like, yep. I was reading Grant Morrison's run a little bit, and Grant Morrison's run's pretty cool in the way that it sets up this larger, like this absolutely massive conspiracy that spans like time, which is really cool about like the symbol of Batman and like moreover like the symbol of Bruce Wayne. But I can kind of feel that. I mean, a good comp is The Court of Owls, a really popular newer story that came out in 2012 by Scott Snyder. Like a bigger conspiracy that's being hidden behind the shadows. Like, you can feel that like something like that can happen in this world. Yeah. This world is like the perfect balance between realism and like, what everybody falls in love with about comics. It's like these heroes that are larger than life, but that we can also relate to and kind of, grow ourselves with as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy week.
Yeah, this is a special movie. I can feel it, man. This is a special film.
It has that aura about it, right? Like, just certain movies have that aura where you're like, yeah, like this is going to be pretty. There's not many movies that have that.
Yeah, last one for me that was like that was Dune, where it was like, because Spider-Man No Way Home, in my opinion, as soon as we found out that this was going to be a multiverse tale, like, you were already sold, so it wasn't really like any Avengers Endgame, same thing. Like, you didn't really need to be sold. Like, Dune was the perfect example of like, oh, I'm sold on this, like being sold on what's happening for this. Yeah, so it's really great that these really well, like, sought after directors are doing these types of movies, and that we can really get some, non, full out CGI, like, laugh track movies, essentially. And nothing against the movies that are like that, but it's just really good to get like a film. You know what I mean? Like, this really feels like a film.
Yeah. Like you said earlier about, the superhero genre not being a genre. We've talked about that a few times, in relation to Ant-Man, in relation to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. There's these comic book movies are not just comic book movies. They're genre films.
Right.
Trapped within a comic book universe.
Right.
And that's what this is at the end of the day. It's a genre film.
Yeah, this is like a crime noir story. This is what this really boils down to.
It's a mystery, I can't tell you what's going to happen in this movie.
No. Right. Like, it's just so, like, I think there's this aura about this. There's something special about this that's about to be.
And we're going to see him do, like, detective stuff. He hasn't done.
I think so. I mean, just from that first, and I think it's intentional that the Riddler is your first villain too, because I mean, you want to go back to the first Batman comics. They were called Detective Comics for a reason, because he's the world's greatest detective,
and he doesn't do really any detecting in any other movies.
No, like, I mean,
the Nolan film's a bit.
Yeah, and I always say there's a really cool moment in Batman vs Superman where he goes to the to that underground fight and he like lays his phone down and he just does that little work and he's doing a lot of work for himself. Like, but that's more like that's just more of like,
that's not solving crimes,
right? That's like broader sense of like trying to stop Superman.
I'm looking for like Arkham level stuff,
right?
Where he's gonna be like doing some stuff.
Are we gonna get Riddler trophies in this? Because I will have nightmares if that's the case. You know how many hours I spent on those Riddler trophies when I was a kid?
Is he gonna like deport Batman to like an underground racetrack?
Oh my god! Oh god! Don't remind me of that.
Riddle me this.
No. That's when I would close the app and go play 2K or something like that.
You're like,
No.
And it's like you want to beat him up so bad.
Yeah, but you can't.
But you can't until you get all the trophies.
Yeah. Oh, man.
When did he have time to do this?
That's what I'm saying. How many people do you need to pay to do this?
How did he build the racetrack?
That's what I'm saying. That's a very specific racetrack. God, is Gotham just massive? Like, how big is Gotham for you to be... And how does nobody notice?
Yeah.
Maybe all these cops are being paid off and all these city officials, because how is this just happening?
He's like, he would have bought some land to build these racetracks.
I believe Killer Croc being a real being is more believable than him building these racetracks.
Hopefully there's some real racetracks in this movie.
I hope not. Don't say that.
Right at the end.
That chase sequence looks immaculate.
The one with the penguin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immaculate. I can't wait for that. Oh, yeah. God, I can't wait for that.
Oh, man.
Rob Pattinson, keep doing your great work, man.
So, yeah. So, we are seeing this movie a little bit early, so we will have a non-spoiler review.
We're famous now.
Yeah. Podcast privileges.
Yeah, we're seeing the movie early.
We're seeing the movie early, so we'll have a non-spoiler review. And when I say non-spoiler, I literally mean we're not going to spoil anything, because sanctity.
Yeah.
You know?
We have dignity. We're like superheroes ourselves.
So you'll have our instant reactions probably, I don't know, Thursday, Friday-ish. Probably like just instant gut check reactions from our screening on Tuesday. And then next week for our regular episode, we're just going to go deep dive, full spoiler review. Give you some time to see it if you haven't. And we'll be back for that. But other than that, again, it's kind of just mind-blowing that it's here.
Yeah. It's time. This is like everybody...
Felt like a real fast 2 years.
That was really 2.5 years almost that
like that DC Fandome. Like, it doesn't feel that far ago. I think it's because also, like, the second DC Fandome wasn't, like... There wasn't so much pomp and circumstance behind it.
The first DC Fandome was, like, a big... They were revealing thing after thing during that DC Fandome.
For, like, the whole day.
Yeah, it was literally from, like, 10 to 10. It was just... Yeah. And the Batman trailer was the ender, so...
Yeah, so I don't remember a ton from the last DC Fandome. I know we did an episode on it, but honestly, I don't remember much of what happened.
I know that episode was the one with No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Because we talked about how surprisingly campy a really grounded Bond movie was.
So yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. What have you been doing? Watching anything?
What have I been doing? I've been playing a little bit more Ghost of Tsushima. I think that game's really beautiful. I send you screen grabs from that all the time. Just a really well done game. What else have I been doing? I've still been trekking through my Oscar movies, and I made sure that I had movies that I think should have been nominated for Oscars, so I just watched Joaquin Phoenix's new movie, Come On, Come On, and from the opening 2 minutes, I was an emotional wreck, so that was tough. So A24 is still doing the Lord's work for film bros like me. Just really amazing performance from him and the kid in that movie as well. Just really, really... really shows like what I always say about movies and the reason I make movies. It's like movies are life. Like that's really what they are. They're supposed to be reflections of life and vice versa as well. It's just a really well-made movie. I listened to a lot of interviews that Mike Mills had and listened to like anytime he talks. It's like kind of like Matt Reeves. Mike Mills is an absolute genius when it comes to filmmaking, and it's just he's so intricate in the way that he does all of his things. And it's like it's not even down to the filmmaking. It's down to like the narrative of like people, and I think that's really powerful as well, and that's the perfect example of this movie. I was listening to the score on the way here too, just because how great it was, just like the full formulation of just life itself. And like I really love, like, as much as we love these big superhero movies, there's something about that smaller scale movie that we can just look at ourselves and just think about life for a little bit. I think are really special. So Come On, Come On, really highly recommended by me. Just a really great smaller movie, shot in black and white, shot on film. Just a really, really beautiful movie.
Cool. Very nice. I've been putting on the Lord's worth of hours into Horizon Forbidden West.
How is it?
It's amazing. It takes everything that the first game did, but just amplifies it from... I mean, the world building in that game is just absurd. It's such a easy story and easy world to get lost in a world, in a genre such as gaming where powerful female protagonists are far few in between. Aloy has emerged. She was on the cover of Vanity Fair in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy.
And she was in that little sizzle reel that they threw before Uncharted as well, right?
Yep. Again, like I said last week, makes me think that they may do something with Horizon as far as doing something on TV, doing something on film. It's a beautifully designed world. And then, I mean, it's one of those games where, like, the side quests are interesting, which is really important in an open world game. Unless you're a masochist and you're playing Elden Ring like a bunch of psychopaths are, that I know. Because that's one of those games that's designed to be hard. Horizon Forbidden West, it's very forgiving. If you just want to play it on a difficult, it's literally called story difficulty, where like the combat is kind of passive and you can kind of get through it with your eyes closed. If you just want to sit back and enjoy the story, that always tells me that like it's a studio that's very proud of its story. When it's just like, you know what, put the gameplay kind of aside, and just enjoy the ride. And I can't say enough. It's so wildly good animated. Like the people, like when people were talking in that game, I'm just like watching it. Like I'm watching a real conversation taking place. Cause like you can see the characters doing things with their eyes when they're talking, like their expressions. I can't say enough good things about it. It's one of those things that like I'm going to be sad when I finish it because it's such a taxing experience that I'm never going to go back to it. I always say The Last of Us is like that.
That Last of Us might be the best example of that.
Last of Us Part 1, especially Part 2, is so emotionally taxing that you're just like, they're like, you want to do New Game Plus now? And I'm like, nope. I'm putting this thing away and I'm never playing it again.
You know how difficult it is to find arrows and to tell me I can do New Game Plus with all my weaponry and I say no?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to experience all that trauma again. I'm good. But Horizon Forbidden West, if you love a good story-driven, character-driven video game, it's top of the top when it comes to PlayStation, man. Look, I know people love Xbox and they love their multiplayer Call of Duty games, but as far as single-player, story-driven content, what Sony's doing is pretty unrivaled.
Ghost of Tsushima,
The Last of Us, Uncharted, Spider-Man, Horizon, just...
like you just said, their stories are so potent.
Yeah.
I mean, my best example, just because, comic books is Spider-Man specifically. It's like, it's funny the weave that Spider-Man had, especially in the third act of that game. Like, that final battle still rings in my head to this day, and it always will in terms of games, of like, how emotionally impactful the last 10 minutes of cinematics were on that game. It's just, it's unmistakable.
Yeah, and that's why, honestly, you're seeing Sony in particular take their video game properties and adapt them into film because they believe in their characters and they believe in their stories.
Yeah, as soon as I heard Ghost of Tsushima was getting live action, immediately I said, oh yeah, that's, if you get the right person to direct that movie, and like I said, you don't gotta go look for an actor, just get the guy that played Jin Sakai in the game to play him. But if you get the right person and the right, just all the right pieces into that, you could really, because what I think we need as well as a modern day samurai story, I think that would be really amazing in like this new age of filmmaking too. So they had a rare opportunity. So that would be really amazing.
God of War 2, I didn't even mention.
Yeah, well, I already have my dream for God of War. Robert Eggers, after you're done doing the Northman, hop over, grab an actor, and do God of War.
Yeah, one of the pillars of of PlayStation is Kratos.
I was just watching the cinematics for God of War when he's fighting Baldur. Just so.
One of the most underrated things about the new God of War is it's a one shot.
Yeah, it's like it's the way they do 1917, where it's like there's cuts, but it's like you don't feel it at all. The way they do it, so it's just really, really amazing.
It's kind of crazy that we're in an age of gaming where you're paying attention to cinematography.
Yeah, I love that. That's me. That was made for me.
I always talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake just having impressive cinematography.
Yeah.
The way things are framed in that game, and God of War 2, you're like, I'm admiring camera work.
Is this a movie or is this
I'm admiring camera work in a video game. When did this start happening?
Yeah. Man, God of War. I remember when I played it for the first time? Man.
You're just like, whoa.
Yeah, this is a game.
Yeah. God of War Ragnarok coming this year, perhaps.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. It's supposed to be at the end of 2021.
Who knows when things are getting delayed anymore? We're in the age
especially
of
video games.
Yeah.
I always say this about video game delays. People get upset about them, but I'm like, hey, man, especially with a game, take your time. Take your time.
I guess the Avengers is probably a good example of maybe take some more time.
Maybe the Avengers game is the best example of, should we be doing this?
Yeah.
This way? No, as it turns out.
How did that and Guardians of the Galaxy are two polar opposites?
Yeah, we talked about Guardians of the Galaxy and how good it is.
Oh my god.
That's another one. I forgot about that too. But I don't think that's a console exclusive. I think you can play that on an Xbox. But yeah. I'm glad we're in this age. You know what? If this thing goes well, I already told you that they need to give the devs who made Sifu a Daredevil game. Someone modded it. I sent you the video of the Daredevil mod.
Yeah, I proceeded to send that to like 10 people that never asked for it. So.
I'm like, do this, give these guys a budget and ask them to make a Daredevil game.
I want the guys that are making this Wolverine game to make which is still Insomniac.
Yep.
To make a Daredevil game. I mean, Insomniac and Marvel just have a match made in heaven at this point.
I can't believe they're doing a Wolverine game. That came out of left field.
I'm telling you, it's going to be like Red Dead meets Spider-Man. I'm waiting for it.
Like Insomniac would just double barrel action at the PlayStation. They're like, Spider-Man 2? And we're like, yes. And they're like, wait.
Here's Wolverine.
And we're like, wait, you're doing both of these? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't slept in...
We're collecting that Marvel bag.
Yeah, we haven't slept in days, but...
The official developer of Marvel games.
Any other characters you would want to see?
For superheroes?
I guess Marvel would be more specific.
I'd like to see Man, it's tough, because Avengers just barreled through so many of them.
I mean, you're talking teams. Why don't we go back to the first family? I feel like a Fantastic Four game, if this Guardians game worked that well, if Insomniac's running things, especially the emotional beats of their stories, I really think a Fantastic Four game would be really cool.
That would be cool. Man, I'd like to see... There's so many. I'd like to see, much in that vein, if you're going to do a team-up thing... An X-Men game, proper X-Men game. Those are characters, especially in gaming, that aren't really explored enough outside of...
Ultimate Alliance, maybe.
Ultimate Alliance, Marvel vs. Capcom, which is a fighting game. But that's honestly where the X-Men get their most exposure in video games is Marvel vs. Capcom, which they don't make anymore because Marvel and Capcom are at an impasse.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that was also on purpose because for a while Marvel was being really petty about the X-Men. Because of the film rights, so they kind of shelved the X-Men for a while. I mean, that's kind of paved the way for the Inhumans, was because Marvel was like, all right, Fox, you want to be petty?
Why didn't they just do the Inhumans movie? I mean, I guess we got the Eternals as the comp for it, but why didn't we just do the Inhumans movie?
Yeah, I don't know. But that's enough tangents for us for 1 week. Next week, the Batman full review. Later this week, Batman non-spoiler review. And until then, you can follow us on all the socials. Firstly, on Twitter, at ProjectINF_pod. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, at
The Project Infinite Pod.
Thank you very much. And that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google. Share with your friends, share with your family, share with the guy at the grocery store again. If you didn't talk to him last week, talk to him this week.
If you have a crush on him, also mention that we have a podcast after you confess to love.
Your classmates, your coworkers, basically anybody. We're for everybody.
Yeah, we're for everybody.
Rated E for everyone. That's what our podcast would be. Unless you're... I don't know.
Unless you hate content, because we talk about everything.
Unless you're too opinionated. We're not for the very opinionated people.
Are we not?
I don't know.
I think we are.
I think we're anti those people.
Well, we're for the people that are very, angry about everything. We're not for those people.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
Yeah, have some fun. Let loose. Just come back, kick it with us for an hour every week. Probably an hour 40, depending on how long the Batman review is. Man, we got 2 episodes rolling this week. We're moving right along.
Yeah, we're famous now. We got early access to see the Batman.
Yeah, so we're going to go watch the Batman. That from me, from the Matt Reeves of the podcast.
I thought you were going to give me Commissioner Gordon, but I'll take Matt Reeves. It makes me feel good because that's also what I want to do, so maybe I'll be able to tell a greater story than that. I always told you there's 2 characters I were ever to direct for a superhero movie, I said if it was for Marvel, a Century movie would be really cool, because I think it would be a really good character study of and it would kind of mess with your mind, where they take place. And I always say if it's for DC, my perspective changed. I always said I would really want to do a really cool Flash movie, but now I think a Mr. Miracle movie would be really good for the same reason. It's you could tell a really grounded, really, really great emotional story. Go read go read Tom King's Mr. Miracle run from 2017. It's one of the best comic books that's ever been written, and it just feels more like a novel, honestly, and it's really well done, really emotional, really impactful.
Cool. All right. Well, from us to you, enjoy Batman Week. Enjoy all the chaos that is sure to ensue.
Don't watch Twilight.
Don't watch Twilight.
Watch Good Time.
Yeah. Find some things that Robert Pattinson's in that isn't Twilight and just marvel at what an actor he's morphed into.
Oh, crap. I've been watching Harry Potter.
Hell yeah, my guy.
That's what I've been watching.
How
did I forget?
Getting ready for the Secrets of Dumbledore.
Wow, we didn't talk about it. Oh, there was a Secrets of Dumbledore trailer that dropped. But I'm sorry. I feel so bad. Nobody was talking about it. That trailer dropped and everybody's like, oh, so it's Batman Week. That's nice.
Yeah,
sorry, Jude Law.
That franchise is in a really weird place.
Johnny Depp was recast with Mads Mikkelsen.
Yep.
Cool, but...
Who was also recast from Colin Farrell.
Oh, that's right. One. That's right. Okay. Cool.
It's about Wizard Hitler. All right, that's what
that is about. Wizard Hitler.
All right, guys. On that note,
yeah,
we'll see you we'll see you later this week, and then eventually next week for the Batman. All right, guys. It's very late. Goodbye.
Peace.